Okay, let's go ahead and grab these funny looking brackets. These are basically clamps that clamp down below to hold these struts. Okay, so you'll notice the one on the left has the small opening, and then on the right has the large opening, and then the one on the right, the strut, has a small little notch in it. Right there? That indicates that it's the right strut. So set those next to your bike, one on the right side, one on the left, and then we'll put them on the bike. Okay, you'll notice I've installed the left side of the bike first. Okay, you'll notice here that the big tall bracket for the arm goes in the back of this black swing arm bracket here. And then this funny looking piece in the front that has that welded piece on the inside, that goes on the outside, and then they just screw those nuts on there to hold it. We just want to leave this a little bit loose right now until we get the struts on, and then we'll kind of tighten it all up once. So just snug those up. Do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll show you how to hook this fender on. Now go ahead and mount your struts. There again, leave these screw nuts just a little bit loose so they'll slide up and down. And then what we'll want to do, we want to run that nut on the fender, run it in just fairly close there and back it off about 1/8 of an inch, because it'll basically slide into that slot right there. Like that, and over. So if you run it down about where it should made up with that little slop, that'll save you having to screw this all the way down when it's on the bike. You'll notice I put just a shop rag over these struts, so when I set my beautifully painted fender, and this one isn't, but when I do, I can set that fender on there and it won't accidentally slip off and ruin my paint job. Okay, then what you want to do is you want to just slide that screw into those slots like I said before. I'll give a close-up here and you can see how it works. That fender basically just slides down in there, and then it slides over to the left. That way you can snug that up a little bit, and you won't have to see it keep screwing on it while it's down inside there. Next, we'll go ahead and put these screws on both sides. Now do me a favor, and whatever you do, we want to use Loctite on these. You use that blue Loctite, make sure you shake the bottle a little bit. Put the blue Loctite on before you put the screw in, because these do have a tendency to vibrate loose and come out if you're not really careful. Oh, and by the way, these are really cool. They're little, they have these little sealing washers we send with them. And we send you extras of these just in case you ever were to lose one. So whenever you're riding, double check those, especially at first. Make sure you don't lose one, but you know, if you by chance do, you have some extras. Gosh, I just love the bobber fenders. I think, to me, that's kind of what the most important thing about the bike is, that fender. And this thing came out so cool on this bike, it just fits it perfectly. Oh, and then the later years, they came out with a 150 tire. This is a 130. It's a 2002. But I'm pretty sure this fender will fit the 150 tires just as well, because we actually make these for the 170 on the metric bike. So should be plenty of clearance. So anyway, go ahead and snug all these screws up. The way we design this is the struts, these are slotted. So the strut should end up all the way down as low as it can go and still have clearance for your finger to go into those nuts. And then when you tighten everything up, kind of tighten a little bit at a time. Center that one, make sure it's nice and centered on that clamp, on that slot. Snug that one up, and then snug these up. Kind of tighten them a little bit at a time until everything kind of works really well. And then check behind, make sure there's about the same clearance on one side or the other, and eyeball it. Make sure that the fender is centered on the tire and it's not tilted or something. It should come out really nice. There are little variations on bikes, so they might have to do a little adjusting. Now what you can do too, you can raise or lower one of the struts. If it's a little off, you can like raise one side just a little bit, but it should come out really nice. One thing you don't need to do is these bottom two flange nuts down below on these clamps. You don't need to over tighten those. Just snug them up to where there's no play and it doesn't move a little bit. I mean, we put those spacers in there so that if you do tighten them up and they bottom out, it won't bend the outside clamp. But you really don't need to tighten them that much, as long as that ends up nice and tight and it doesn't move. So anyway, go ahead and snug everything up. Double check all the nuts and bolts. Blue Loctite on these, snug them up, and double check everything as you go. But man, that looks good. One final note before we go to the front fender is if you need to adjust the belt, All you need to do is just loosen these 2 screws right here, and then that clamp will slide back and forth. You don't need to change anything else. And then if you ever do have to remove the fender, it's really cool because I would just remove these 2 screws on each, or these 2 nuts on each side, and loosen that front screw, and then the fender will just come right off. So it's really easy to take the fender off if you ever need to change the tire or whatever. So anyway, let's go to the front fender.